Hey, my name is Stacey Renee. I'm a mindset coach, and I like to call myself a life on life's terms coach. I'm here for story time with Stacey this morning. This is to help us to connect with our own stories, and especially coming into the new year. Our new year, new me. But really, what if the person that you are is just fine and divine, and you just need that healing, because you have innate gifts inside you. I promise you do. Sometimes we just need help finding our gifts. Sometimes we perceive that our gifts are the thorns in our sides, or what have you. So I wanted to talk with you all about that this morning. I'm going to go ahead and start. I know it's the holidays and things are off schedule. One of the things I'm going to be doing this week is working on specific times that I go on these lives, and try to stick with those times on the days and the times. I usually have been doing story time with Stacey on Sundays, and I'm usually on here Monday, Wednesday, Friday, either with a short or usually a live on Wednesday, a live on Sunday. Sometimes I'll do a live on Friday. I may throw a live in there somewhere because I want us all to feel connected. And that's what our story time is about today, is to feel divinely connected and wholly directed. So that's when I say holy, I'm talking about whole. Is we all, maybe in our childhoods had fragments, had ourselves fragmented of thinking we were supposed to or should be something else other than we are. But maybe we just distorted our truth, our trust. And maybe it wasn't, solely because of us, but it is, for us to get in connection with ourselves and what is it that we want, because we're worthy. Okay. So that's what I get on here and designed to do. So I'm going to go ahead and start with this. Before our story begins, I want to say that, before we speak of healing, to understand this, most of us didn't lose ourselves because of something was wrong with us, although we may have later perceived that there's things wrong, because I'm not saying that we all grew up in perfect childhoods and perfect homes. There is a thing as transgenerational trauma. Not all of us had trauma, though. What if you were just not seen in the home you grew up in? And is that a trauma in itself? Well, it may be to you, and that's validated. So most of us didn't lose ourselves because something was wrong with us. We learned to separate because it once felt necessary, because we were hurt. And when we're hurt, we're either going to attack, fight back, or we may step back and not be seen, not be heard, may not think we're worthy. We either fight to be worthy, or we not to be worthy, or we defend to be worthy. I'm this way because of this. So we give up those identities and become who it is we are and want to be. So as children, we adapted in different ways. Some learned to disappear in order to stay safe. Some learned to carry weight that was never theirs, and some learned to grow up far too soon. These adaptations became people's identities. This is the way that they developed on through an adulthood, and sometimes it feels put upon, right? So they learned to grow up far too soon. These adaptations became identities, and over time, these identities began to feel that who we were in order to survive. We were just picking up these survival mechanisms. We were not thriving, but just calibrated to survive. As I don't want this to happen, so I'm going to strategize. I'm going to anticipate and strategize. That's survival mechanism. And it's not all bad. I worked security in the schools, and it was a good thing when I worked securities in the schools. So that's what I mean about becoming, being who we are. But just when we do the healing work, we're able to understand the gift that the pain brought to us. Why would we think without healing, there's no gift in pain, right? So we have to get to that healing point. And does it mean that it's weak to heal? No. it takes a great amount of strength to heal, to become real, to understand who you really are and not those identities. Good morning, Greg. It's good to see you this morning. Thank you for joining Story Time with Stacey. So, yeah, I'm talking about, the stories that we create. Because as we're stepping into the new year, what story do we want to create for ourselves? A lot of us live life on default. I know I did until I didn't. And I was just talking about the pain. And the reason for healing is so that we can understand our gifts that we developed from the pain that we've had, the resilience, the tenacity, the growth that we've had from the pain. Not to become superior or overdo ourselves, but to remember who we are, that authenticity and that genuine part of ourselves. So thank you for being here. So just to catch you up for what I was talking about. So I was it's 11 p.m. here. Oh, where are you joining from, Greg? That is awful late. So, yeah. Okay, I'll hurry and get to it. Okay? So it's not going to be that long. Maybe you'll make it through. But if not, you can catch the replay, okay? And I look forward to hearing what your Australia. Very cool. That's right. So that is very cool. All right. Well, I will go on with this. Thank you for being here, and good night if you don't make it long. But I hope you'll watch the replay and that you'll tell me what your thoughts are and if this was helpful in some way that you'll be able to identify. I like story time because oftentimes we can identify with characters. I just watched a movie over the weekend called Goodbye June, and I identified with all three of the daughters in that movie. So anyway, at different periods of my life, and that's what I'm going to talk about is the three characters in this story. So as children, we adapted in different ways. Some learned to disappear in order to stay safe. I'm talking about these are the identities that we build up. And so sometimes we do this our entire life. This childhood, when we talk about childhood wounds and childhood pain. So some learned to carry what was never theirs. Some learned to grow up far too soon. These adaptations became identities, and those identities began to feel like who we are rather than how we survived. So beneath every role, the unseen one, the overburdened one, and the protector, there has always been something intact. Not a version of you waiting to be fixed, but a wholeness of you waiting to be remembered. Because when you were born whole. You didn't have a care about worrying about what this person was going to think if you did this and worrying about what this person. We were just children, and we felt worthy. So healing is not an act of putting ourselves back together. It is the moment we realize we were never truly apart. Sometimes we overamped into our survival skills, those survival mechanisms, and so we started anticipating everything. And we started, I was just working with somebody yesterday that used to think their intuition was their catastrophizing, those what ifs. And those aren't all bad because like I said earlier, that I used to work security in the schools and I used to be able to anticipate if there was going to be a problem with something. When we learn to control our central nervous system, then we can know what's going on right now rather than anticipating from pain of the past. So hang in here with me, y'all, please. Okay, so when self-trust returns, protection softens. So we're not always running on protective mode anymore. And when guidance comes from within, survival is no longer required. That's what I'm talking about, our intuition, not our imagination. Because I thought that catastrophizing was my intuition, but it was just my imagination. So when the illusion of fragmentation dissolves, that healing, right? We begin to feel what was always true. We are connected, held, and divinely directed. It's about the breathing exercise. However we connect to whoever our source is. The story you're about to hear is about three different children. It is all about one soul learning to trust itself again. And as you listen, you may recognize parts of yourself, just like I told y'all I did with that Goodbye June over the weekend. Not as wounds to overcome, but as wisdom ready to lead you from surviving into fully living. And before we do this, I want you to think about, some of us have siblings and some of us have these perceptions, and not even just with siblings. I talked about last week about how I had perceptions of certain people. And sometimes we have these perceptions that are only coming from what the data in our mind says. We may not actually know. So I want you to start to breathe with me for a moment, and then we're going into the story, okay? So Greg, if you're still here, just hang on. It's going to be over with in 3 to 5 minutes, if you can hang on. Okay. So let's just take a deep breath in. Hold it. And release. Gently and slowly. Breathe in. Hold it. And release. Breathe. Hold it. And release. So your central nervous system is slowed down now. So I'm going to read the story. Nighty night, Greg. Okay, so begin. Keep your awareness on your breath. Inhale gently and exhale fully. Let your body settle and let the moment hold you. There's nothing missing here. Now imagine stepping into an inner quiet space, a place beyond time, beyond effort. 3 children appear before you. The first learn to watch carefully, to read the world because no one reflected them back. They learn to stay small in order to stay safe. Look at them with a steady presence as your adult and say, I see you. You belong here. Then the second child carries a weight that shaped them early. They believed responsibility would create safety, and they confused guilt with love. Gently let them hear. You were never meant to carry weight that wasn't yours. The third child stands alert, capable, and guarded. They became the protector, mistaken control for security. Say to them softly, you don't have to be on watch anymore. Now notice something subtle but powerful. The children are not separate from you. They are aspects of one living system. As you stand here grounded, present, aware, the illusion of fragmentation begins to dissolve. You're not divided. You're connected. You're guided. Place your attention on your body now. Feel how protection softens when trust is restored. Feel how effort eases when survival is no longer required. Say quietly, I am safe to feel. I am safe to choose. I am safe to thrive. Notice the children draw closer, not to merge into one, but to remember they were always held together. Let this knowing move through your breath, your cells, your entire being. Healing is not about guarding against life. It's about participating fully in it. Take one final breath in and release slowly. When you return to this moment, carry this truth with you. You are whole. You are divinely connected and directed, and you no longer have to strive to survive to belong. Yes, it does make your hand-eye coordination better. I can actually, because I don't drink anymore. But when I can actually, without tape, do lines at the top of a ceiling when I paint, I can actually paint around, the ceiling and not have to tape off things because my hand is steady. And it's because the breathing and staying where my hands are. So I want you to remember, Greg, that I'm divinely connected. That sometimes it seems like in life I didn't sign up for this. And I know may have felt that way many times as I did. I didn't sign up for this. But we are wholly directed. And what I mean by wholly directed is WHOLLY. Directed is because there is unity and community. And I want you to breathe, darling, because you are protected. So I hope that you'll have some blessed and regenerated rest. The breathing does regenerate us. So we'll do that once more before we get off of here this morning, because the breath is regeneration for our cells. Because when I talk about healing, it's our cells, ourselves, and our soul. Because our cells react to how we feel and what we think. Our cells react to that, respond to that. So healing is a mind, body, and soul thing. We just can't. I know I have tried to just think myself out of situations, and I can't just think it out. I've got to breathe so that I get into my divine mind, so that I get that higher guidance, whatever you perceive that to be, whatever I perceive it to be, because your relationship with your source or not is your business. I'm just here to help you to be in touch with that, or to be in touch with yourself. Healing yourself, your cells, and your soul, So let's just finish this out with the breathing. So let's take a deep breath in once again. Imagine how you feel when you feel whole, and hold it. And release. Breathe in. And hold. Hold the thought of everything you've grown through being a part of your strength. And then release the pain and the fears. So you can show up here. Breathe in. Hold it. And release. Just two more. Breathe. And then hold it and imagine the what ifs going in the direction of what you want. And release. Last breath. Breathe in. Hold it. And release. All right. If you identified with any or all of those characters in the story, and I'll post the story for those to get to see it who are catching it later or what have you. If you identified with any of the characters, all of the characters, as I do and did, and I work with people who are aspects of these characters, as I can see, that's how we can work on the healing together compassionately and humanize each other, is that I understand these feelings. So I had to deal with my feelings to do my healing. and understand that I'm not a victim in my healing. See, that's what a lot of people don't want to look at. And that doesn't mean who we are. That means that we're just cleaning up our survival skills to be in that regenerated breath, to be in, because when I took martial arts, I had to, that was part of my learning to breathe. That was my first lesson in learning to breathe, is when I took martial arts, because it gives, I always tell people, we're building mental muscles and emotional stamina, because sometimes we think I can't handle anymore, but we do. We do. So thank you so much for being here this morning. And I hope that you're going to have a great day or a great sleep, Greg. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. I should have a short up. Okay? Thank you so much. Our topic for next week is going to be about creating our story. So I look forward to, if you want to share your stories with me, or you need help creating your story, StaceyReinick@gmail.com. That's StaceyReinick@gmail.com. All right. Thank you so much. Have a super Sunday. And we'll talk about your story more Monday. Thanks, Greg. You sleep well, okay? Night-night.